accept the loss, I'm hard-headed. There's a little bit of madness to my method. Many falling off that fine line that I'm treading. I risk anything to be great, and I'm not letting nobody rob me of my victory. Number one, that's what I'm meant to be. When by any means, only thing that makes sense.
And here we go. It is episode 4 of the Red, White, and Crew podcast. Hey, what a night. What can I say? Probably the best match we've ever seen the Red, White, and Blue play in any World Cup. I think we're all in recovery. That almost makes up for the 29. That definitely makes up for the 29-point debacle by my Spurs. But, guys, what do you guys think?
Man, scenes. I mean, the chills that I was getting last night and almost being brought to tears at the end, just watching Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan's reactions to the crowd. They're like, man, we worked so hard to get this, and look where it is now. I mean, it's everybody who's spent time trying to promote soccer in the U.S. and knowing that it could take off and do what it's doing right now. I mean, I texted a bunch of people last night, like, we're on the cusp of something great, and if they can keep playing well, man, soccer's going to explode.
Yeah, it was a unique experience, I think, in sports. Just everybody is going for the same team, which you just don't see very often. And I mean, I had people in Austin. I don't know if y'all saw the big watch party there in Austin. I mean, there was thousands of people there just in a field watching the game. And even where we were at, I mean, we got there an hour and a half early last night and couldn't find anywhere to sit. So we were standing watching the game the whole time because everybody wanted to get there early and find a spot. And it was just, probably lots of people that don't usually watch the game were watching and really invested. And it was a spectacular experience, I think.
Yeah. Rafa?
Needed win for them. I mean, the pressure was on. They had to deliver. So, I mean, it was more how were they going to react to the game? How are they going to come out? Are they going to be a slow game? But like I said, it's a perfect scenario for them to come out, win how they won last night to set the tone. Now, the key is you got one like that. Can you repeat the performance the next game and the next game? And it's like I said, it's basically the build-up.
Yeah. I think it was pretty remarkable. I think it was. I think just shock. I think from the standpoint of how they were playing versus who they were playing, how the match played out, which we're obviously going to dive into. But just a complete performance from start to finish. There was literally. You can pick apart, a 30-second lapse, right, where they fell asleep. And rightfully so. I think that's still the ongoing thing, right, is because here's one of the stats, right, is 9th consecutive match where they failed to have a clean sheet, right? But it's kind of one of those things where still very much a work in progress, I think. I don't know, I think that sequence there in itself, too, I think even then, I don't know if it was so much falling asleep for a split second, but just got caught out of position, obviously. But yeah, we're not here to really talk about that. Not really here to talk about that so much. But, just from start to finish, seeing the group, the crowd, something we're definitely not used to seeing here in this country. And I think our players responded extremely well. They weren't too big. The moment was definitely not too big for the moment. I think they were clearly ready. I think you could see that. You could see that in the lead up, in the build up, in the decision making that the lineup that Pouch put out, and then also we'll talk about it more with Pulisic being seated, being subbed off at halftime. I think that just shows also the confidence, right? So, but kind of one of the things we wanted to share here really quick is go into this guy. So, some scenes we talked about it. Aaron, you had mentioned it. Some scenes from last night. Some pretty crazy stuff. Pretty awesome performance as we had talked about. But just, I mean, it was what I think. What was the official? I saw 72. Did you guys see official attendance? 72,000, I think is what it was.
I heard that number, yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't see anything, but I heard it.
So, the just, I mean, unreal. Of the four matches we've seen so far, obviously we got four more to go today, including the other half of Group D tonight. But uh, just unreal. Look at these scenes. We look at these scenes too. I mean, what from this perspective? These scenes or something maybe floating around through social media and what have you. Aaron, Elias, what was maybe one that really kind of spoke to you that got you?
I thought it was Poach running all the way to the corner flag right there at the end. Um, I think that there was a little bit of hesitation maybe with hiring a foreign manager again, hiring somebody, and then right before the World Cup, there was the noise like, is he only here for this run and then he's out, and how invested is he? But to see that, it seems like he's built a team that, they're going to fight and they're going to fight for each other and they're going to celebrate each other and the strength of the group is the group. So that was a poignant moment there for sure.
No, I think you're right on. I mean, when we talk about in our coaching world and what we try to do with our kids, it's build that culture. And you build a culture where the kids trust each other, they trust you, they support each other. And when you can get that the way they have it right now, man, those kids will run through a brick wall for you. And I really feel like that's with the U.S. men's national team right now. I mean, look at the way they pressed last night. Look at how they suffocated Paraguay. I saw something from the Paraguay manager where he was talking about a pentagon in the middle. And he was like, they locked it down and we had no answers to how to get out. And that's the way, honestly, I loved watching it because it's the style of play that I've been kind of adapting and our teams have done over the last 2 years is that 3-6-1 almost, where you just have that box in the midfield with the wingbacks pressing high and creating that constant pressure where they can't get out, where you've got teams suffocated and pinned back in their defensive third, and then you get the ball and you go score immediately. So, and they did it so well last night. But I agree, Elias, my favorite moment was seeing Pochettino run down to the corner flag after that fourth goal and just celebrating with Gio Reyna, who has had so much crazy stuff happen over the last 4 years, and to be able to get in the World Cup, actually play in one, and then score a goal to cap the night off, that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think what I didn't even notice it until people were talking about it well after the fact, right? But I think you look at the great pedigree of Mauricio Pochettino and where he's been in some of the clubs as he was coming through the ranks, and then of course both at Tottenham and then as well as at PSG, and that was very much, I'm not going to say out of character for him, but just because he is a passionate guy. But when have you seen him do that on the club side, right? When have you seen him? That was shocking to me. So
I don't know if I've ever seen a coach at the club or national level run to a corner or run even half the length of the field to go celebrate with the team.
well, clearly you've never seen Liverpool, sir. Jurgen Klopp, he kind of runs across. He'll run across the field.
He runs across and then cramps. I've seen that.
I think
that's sideline.
Pep ran when Iniesta scored against Chelsea. I think he ran the length of the field on that one.
Yeah.
Was that Mourinho? Was it Mourinho? Mourinho?
No, when Barcelona was playing Chelsea in '09 and Iniesta scored that goal, I think Pep at the very end to win it on away goals.
Yeah.
I think I said, but yeah, I mean, it was just you can just tell that the passion is there from literally everyone involved, and I think that's why they had such a spirited performance. Was that Paraguay they were overmatched? I think from the moment the first whistle blew, just from the intensity and how they. I think the crowd and everything just gave them that extra boost. It was impressive.
And I think, and that was one of the things that we mentioned yesterday, right? In yesterday's preview show was, would the moment be too much for Paraguay, right? That's what, we talk about CONMEBOL, we talk about South America and all this stuff, but what was not being discussed was just like, hey, none of these guys, there is not one player on this team that has any World Cup experience. It's their first time in 16 years in a World Cup, right? And they were going to go into, little did we know they were going to go into a buzzsaw in terms of the team on the field, because they were obviously familiar with the U.S. men's national team, but was the environment what got them. And then dreams start for the U.S. Next thing you know, they're up against it, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about here. So hit on a couple of key points here, and then we'll dive into more stuff here. But so seven key points here. So it all started with the own goal, right? Bombadier's own goal, setting the tone early, 7th minute. Um, when we look back at that, right, the way it unfolded, what were your thoughts on that? Rafa, we'll start with you.
I think early on you can tell that they had a lot of nerves, but also Paraguay actually did threaten in the beginning. They had a couple good opportunities to kind of get behind the defense, and it looked like, hey, they might be able to get one early. But I think that own goal just really kind of deflated them, and you can tell by the look on their face that they just never recovered. They're basically in the
Yeah.
quicksand,
Okay.
just
Well,
couldn't get out of it. I mean, normally you're down like that, yeah, pick it up. Let's move forward. But I guess not having that experience,
mhm.
I think it finally caught up to them.
Yeah.
Even though they're battle tested with in Ball, but it's in a scenario like that, they just couldn't recover and so
Yeah.
forth, and it just, like I said, it just went downhill fast, and then also the coaches didn't make any adjustments. They could have kind of adjusted some things to
I agree.
alleviate that pressure. Yeah, because they were getting pressured a lot, they were getting pressed, and he just never made those changes. Maybe toward, like I said, I think they were trying to hold on to that water to the hydration break to maybe to kind of fix some things, but by that time it was already too late. They couldn't recover from that big hole they created.
Yeah. Well, I will agree to disagree on they had chances in the first couple of minutes, because I did not see anything like that. Did they have the ball for a few minutes? Yeah, I think the U.S. was trying to settle
Yeah,
in,
there
but
was a there was
it
a
was
couple
immediate.
there
It
was a
was
couple
immediate on the attack,
opportunities.
man. It was immediate on the attack for the U.S. men's national team going forward, and that space that they gave Pulisic on that left wing, that flank, they immediately exploited it, and that's where the attack came through. But I agree with you. I think that the other part was I kept waiting to see Alfaro when he was going to make some sort of immediate adjustment, within minutes after that own goal, and it never came. It really didn't. So was he but there was a quote even by him. He talked about he's particularly gave great praise to the midfield of the U.S. men's national team, and he said we couldn't do anything. He said just they had what do you call him? I think a pentagon. I think right in the
Yeah,
midfield.
that's what he said. A Pentagon.
Yeah, he said they could, and then he also specifically cited Weston McKennie, and he said uh, that he was everywhere, right? So I think they were legit, and it showed the further that first half unfolded, Paraguay looked completely out of flux, completely confused. And I think, yeah, were the nerves probably there just as much as the U.S. to begin with? Yeah, own goal comes, and then next thing you know, they're off to the races. But kudos to the U.S. men's national team for jumping all over it and being opportunistic in that moment, right? So, any additional thoughts on that as far as just the own goal setting up going forward, Elias?
Yeah, I think, we kind of knew how the game was going to go. It was going to be Paraguay trying to hit on the break, and the U.S. having to be patient, and I think that really opened up the game a little bit, because Paraguay couldn't then, when you're protecting a 0-0 score line is a lot different than trying to protect a 1-0, because when it's 1-0, you also have to start to think about, okay, well, how are we going to also create a threat to go and tie it? And so mentally, I just think that when we talked about game states, right? I brought that up. Like, the game state just completely flipped on its head, and favored the U.S. after that own goal. So it was really, really important for them to find a way to get one. But it was also pressure. I mean, the U.S. did a great job of kind of controlling territory. They were able to kind of pin them back, and it would just kind of seem like wave after wave after wave. They were getting into, those zones in between the outside back and the center back, and creating a lot of conflict for them there. And that's now you're chasing your own goal when you're defending, and you never want to be facing your own goal when those balls are being played into the box. So I thought it was just it really favored the U.S. and it was a huge moment.
I agree. I think textbook. I mean, textbook the way you run into half space. Textbook the way you make defenders, like you say, facing their own goal. We always want them to face their own goal, and when they do that, usually good things happen for you. I will tell you, was anybody else concerned? Because the last time a South American owned gold in a World Cup against the U.S., it did not go well for him when he went back to his own country. I feel like we need to make sure he's okay.
Paraguay's safe.
Paraguay's safer than Colombia? Okay, we're good.
It's safe.
I had a Colombian fan watching with me, and he was very concerned last night.
It's safe. It's safe there.
I was gonna say it's also
If it's Venezuela, I mean, it's Colombia. Yeah, it's a
different time in a different country.
Hopefully,
Different
James
country.
Rodriguez doesn't score an own goal.
Different time in different country. I think it's now. Is there a clear history? Is there a clear link there? Absolutely, and I know that there's obviously a dark past there, but yeah, Paraguay, as Rafa said, different country, different time as well. So, 1994, Colombia was a very different time.
Yeah.
But okay, so the next thing we know, so I thought one of the things that really stood out to me was just, I mean, good luck finding a player on the U.S. men's national team that had, like, if we did a rating system, right, on a scale of 1 to 10, good luck finding a player that was below, that wasn't at least a 6 or a 7, right? Oh, no pun intended, right? But even, we'll just say a 7. I thought all three groups played well. 138-year-old Tim Ream looked really, it looked solid, looked composed. You talk about that veteran experience as well. But then it kind of became kind of the Balogun Christian Pulisic show. Yes, Balogun gets the 2 goals, but I think you could clearly tell in one half of play the influence of Christian Pulisic. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if y'all saw the stat. I think the U.S. completed 24 dribbles last night, which is like the most in world since like the 2014 World Cup, I believe. So I think that goes into, they were not only were they playing well as a team, they were winning their individual battles. And so when you can, remove a defender on the dribble, that creates even more problems for the defenders. And I think that then starts to pull players out. It just created, problems. And so they couldn't necessarily cover as much space because they were now having to cover the defender that was just beaten. And so then they were leaving a space open. And so, that second point there, I thought that the U.S. just, player for player, it just seemed like they were all up for it. I mean, like you said, everybody seemed to have a good game. And when you win 24, take-ons, I mean, that's pretty incredible. So it just seemed they were inspired. It was an impressive performance.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at the back line, I think Freeman had an 85% success rate with his passes. Tim Ream had an 88%. And we see, on the board there what Chris Richards did. I think those back three continually being able to break lines and find passes through. And there was some talk last night, too, about the gap between the back line of Paraguay and then their midfield. That space in there was exploited so bad, and they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to counteract it because if they sat in deeper, we could just move the ball side to side much better. They tried to come out, and when they would come out, that's when Dest would take people on. And, man, his ability to take on people 1v1 and some of the skill moves he did last night, putting people on skates, was insane.
That is about the 7th or 8th match, right? Because I went back and I saw some more stuff once I saw that they were going to be in our group and following them through CONMEBOL. Excuse me. That is about the 7th or 8th match that I've seen Paraguay play, one of those including when we played them back in 2025. And I think that was the equally shocking piece is like I had just never seen them look that just confused, disorganized, and flustered. I had not been very much out of character, and they responded so well, right? Because when Alfaro got there, righted the ship, and that's where they started to go on that run. And, make no mistake about it, this is a Paraguay squad that that only gave up 6 goals in 18 CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying matches and beat the likes of not only Brazil, not only Argentina, but as well as Uruguay. So, I mean, that can't be lost when you're looking at, extrapolating all the data.
Who was the one loss? They only had one loss to Brazil, and that was away, right?
I believe so. I got to go back.
It's not
No, I
easy.
thought they drew. I thought it was Argentina. No, or did they draw Argentina?
They
Because
drew Argentina.
it was
They
Brazil
beat
or Argentina.
Argentina.
One of the two they beat and then drew with them. I can't remember which one it was.
They beat
beat
both of them at
Argentina.
home. I saw they beat both of them at home, and then the Argentina was the one they drew on the road. They had something like 5 wins, 4 draws, and 1 loss.
Yeah.
This is not a bad Paraguay team, and honestly, a little shocked that they're ranked 40th.
Well, and not only that, but seeing Enciso in the lineup, and
Yeah.
then clearly, I mean, he was giving a go of it. He looked okay, but I mean, I would question how
Yeah.
close to 100 was he? But he gave it a go. I think that was the first eye opener for me. It's like, oh wow, he's going to go, right? So that would be the question, right? Is between him and then a recovering Chris Richards, which, oh my God, let's sit him down for 2 months between every match, because the performance he gave, just his 100% connection rate, 83 out of 83 passes, at that level, for that many passes, the highest connection rate in a World Cup match since 1966, back when England won it all. That's telling you how far back we're going. I thought he was incredible.
Did you see the stats on the final third receptions for both teams?
No.
In the final third, it was 201 to 31.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't get out of they could not get out of their own half, which I think was in large stretches. So, and that's where I give the kind of and even then, right? And that's still kind of saying something for the Paraguay defense, as lost and confused as they were in moments. That's still how good they are. I think a lesser defense, the U.S. playing like that, the U.S. probably doubles the amount of goals that they put on another team.
Yeah, you're scoring 8 or 9 at that point. I mean, it's looking like a Spain versus Cape Verde type situation.
Right. So, Elias, we talk about Pulisic being held out, precautionary is what we're being told for the second half. What's going through your mind when you see that? It's like, oh, pulling him at the half. What were your initial thoughts? And then what are you thinking going forward?
Yeah, I mean, when he comes out at the half, I mean, my question would be if it was 1-1 or 0-0, do they take him out at that point? It doesn't seem to be anything super serious, but it's obvious that they are much better when he's there. His ability to kind of solve the game, and he has solutions. It seems for all the problems. He was willing to make those runs into the half space. He was, if somebody else made that run beyond, he was okay, taking advantage of the space left behind on the dribble. You can give him the ball in tight situations, and he's going to find a way out, and then, be able to kind of keep the game going. So, him not at 100%, I think changes things for the U.S. However, I think everyone's pretty optimistic that he's going to be fine. So it'll be. I do think though that the result gives them a little bit of kind of belief of like, okay, well, if we don't have them against Australia, then we still feel confident that we can go on and get a result there. I think Gio Reyna's goal at the end, I think is probably the best thing for the team, because now you can maybe bring in another attack-minded player and you're not really worried about maybe losing as much. You have somebody that has a little bit. So, but he is the key that makes it run in the attack, and I think Paraguay was out-coached yesterday. I thought the U.S. completely they executed their game plan better than Paraguay did. They seemed to kind of know what was going to happen before. But when you get into a game to where maybe the tactics are kind of canceling each other out, you need a player who can solve the situation on their own, and that's Christian Pulisic. And I don't think that we have another player that's able to solve those kind of deadlock situations the way that he can. So it's going to be really important that we get him back.
Rafa, your thoughts? You see Pulisic not coming in second half. What do you think? Obviously, it sounds precautionary, nothing big. Can't be overstated that the big piece here that's very different from all previous World Cups because of the size of this World Cup now, how big the field is this is you got a week, a full week in between matches. So that's another thing. So that's a week that Paraguay has to kind of live with that, but can also tweak that and come out much better, right? Versus Turkey. And then same thing, the U.S. Right? That's a week to where if you're kind of resting on your laurels and patting yourself on the back for too long, you come out flat against an Australia team that's going to be ready for you. So, Rafa, your thoughts? Pulisic not coming in second half.
I wonder if he tweaks something during the game, and they decide, you know what, let's not risk him anymore. Like I said, he does have some history of some injuries in the past, and like I said, he didn't have the best season at Milan, so maybe there was something precautionary there that they didn't want to risk him. Like I said, pretty much the game was in hand. Might as well, let's take him out. Hopefully they don't pull off a choke in the second half, in which they didn't. So
Oh,
I
we
was
all
able
knew.
to rest him.
Three of the four people on this show knew that wasn't going to happen. So
Yeah.
we knew. Yeah. So yeah, it's like I told you. Mitch Johnson called Poch at halftime yesterday. But yeah, I don't know if I could have lived through that, man. A 29 point, comeback losing and then down three or up 3-0, and then yeah, I don't think I could have lived through both of those back to back. Um, but yeah, I think so. The one that's going around, right? I got off the phone with Fabrizio Romano right before I got on here, Elias, and I guess what they're saying is, I guess he just got, and what Poch was saying is that he got, I guess, got kicked in the calf at some point in the first half, and then that it was tight, right? So
Yeah,
just
I think he himself came out and gave a statement yesterday,
right, right.
basically saying that same thing. He got a knock in the back of the calf. I think he's had some injury or some issues with that calf before, and they didn't want to take any risks. And he said his words were, "I hope to be fine in a few days," but I think everyone is pretty optimistic. So.
So, I mean, you look across the board, right? The performance, right? This is just, we talked about the perfect host nation performance between uh, Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. Clearly, the U.S. had the emphatic best performance in their first match. Three teams, possible 9 points of the host nations, and they get 7 of the 9 points, right? With Canada being the exception. Uh, how do they, from the perspective of whether it's how those matches played out, Mexico, Canada, and the U.S., right? Kind of all went in different directions, right? Mexico's match was just kind of a strange one because of South Africa and how that game unfolded and the officiating down the stretch. Felt like they could have easily put a lot more on them, and they kind of just coasted, right? A good bit, and but didn't succumb to the pressure and got the win, got the job done. Canada, different story, right? Canada has the looks of a squad that is going to probably struggle, probably qualify, but struggle once they get into the group stage. And then the U.S., like, how do they follow this act up? Your thoughts on those, Aaron?
Yeah, I think Mexico played a scared game. I mean, just flat out. We went out, they got a goal. It's like, now, how can we just maintain this lead and make sure that we don't give anything up? So they played it safe. I'm not necessarily say scared, but they did play it safe and make sure they got the win. Canada, I think Jesse Marsh runs his mouth too much and then gets himself in trouble when his guys don't show up. I think it was very telling that the Canadian Prime Minister was at the U.S. game and not in Canada. So,
Did you see that? So I guess him and Katy Perry
He's
are
not the prime minister though anymore, is he?
no, he's not. He's not.
still,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but
that would bother me.
I
But
didn't know. I didn't know him and Katy. I didn't know him and Katy Perry are a thing. I did not know
it's a
that.
thing.
I was like, and it took me a second. I was like, "Who's that dude with
is that
Katy
guy?
Perry?" It's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, social media went a buzz with that last night, seeing them there. But no, I think you know, can't listen. Don't take anything away from Bosnia and Herzegovina, though. Too, like we talked about how much of a sleeper that team was and how well organized defensively they were, and they were in the right place at the right time, like we talked about yesterday on the podcast. So
Right.
Good result that you don't get the loss, I think, for Canada. But I think the U.S. by far showed out the best out of any host nation.
Mhm.
And I would have to argue, go back how many years and look at all the host nations and how they did in their opening game. That might have been the best ever. And
Yeah.
whenever I don't like saying things that Alexi Lala said because I don't always agree with him, but he was, I mean, he nailed it right on at halftime. He was like, this is insane the way that they're playing. I think you're right. The game plan was perfect. And that's going out and seeing a team execute the game plan to perfection as well. It's one thing to put a good game plan together, but it's another thing to go out and actually run it well.
Yeah.
And they did,
They
man.
they had they had Alexi Lalas speechless. That was probably
That was the miracle. Yeah.
that was the best gift of the night, right? A speechless Alexi Lalas, right? I love that. So, Rafa, your perspective, right? You look at the three host nations going forward. How do they adjust for? Obviously, they have to adjust to different opponents, but I mean, Mexico's got to go up against a South Korea squad that is going to give them a fight, and South Korea has the luxury of just staying there, staying put, right? Pretty much, they got the lay of the land on that field, right there they'll be playing in Guadalajara that next match. Um, so they have to make that adjustment. Canada, I forgot who does Canada have next. I'm trying to remember.
Qatar, I think.
Is it Qatar?
Qatar, yeah.
Is it Qatar? Yeah. So that does that give them the life, right, to spring into that, get some momentum, and then of course the U.S. Will know more about this Australia squad after tonight, but it's going to be a game Australia squad that won't be afraid of the U.S. team. They're very accustomed to playing here in the U.S. So Rafa, your perspective for these host nations.
I think with the Mexico game, the big difference, I know South Korea already played there. The only difference is, remember, they had the crowd behind them. Now the flip side, now they're going to go into a hostile environment.
Yeah, that's a good
Now
point.
you're going to have that's the big difference there. So they're going to come into a situation that they can be intimidated. They weren't intimidated because they had, like I said, it was basically a neutral game. It's kind of a mix of
I
fans
agree.
and so
I
forth.
agree. But that's a double-edged sword, right? When we talk about L3, that's a double-edged sword, right? And if Korea comes out, if they're game and they withstand the storm, the pressure, what have you, I think here's what I did not like about Mexico in that first match versus a very subpar South Africa. It just is what it is. It's like they keep looking for the validation. I get you play for your people, you play for the crowd, right? But you can't always just look for their validation of what's like, oh, you don't like this? Okay, now let's step it up, right? Because you're on our case, right? Just play your game, play your match. They clearly were the better team. They clearly have the more talent, and I feel like you're inevitably, if you keep relying on, it's like, hey, only when they get on our case do we then kind of kick in. I think that could be dangerous because you're right. I mean, I think that's a great, that's they can impact the game more than anybody, right? We know that, right, from their perspective. But I think when you rely on that, that's inevitably going to be a problem, right? So, and you're playing at home. You shouldn't
Yeah.
look for the valid. It's there. They're here. They won't give them. Just play your game, and everything. The results will take care of themselves. But when they kind of, they did look. I don't know if it was scared, as Aaron said, but they just looked very just nonchalant in large moments of, okay, let's just pace ourselves. Let's take our time, and that's not. I think that's what stood out about the U.S.'s game yesterday, right? Is that they want to see all fans. They just want to see inspiring soccer, and so they want to see their team work, right? And I think that was the thing that we could question for El Tri in the first match. Now, do they kick it up a notch versus South Korea? I think so. But South Korea is going to test them. South Korea is going to test them. So I think putting it back on the crowd or the environment, we'll see. We'll see. But what about you? Look at Canada and the U.S. What are your thoughts there?
I think Canada, like I said, they're gonna have to make adjustments. I think they just kind of, I don't know, that moment they're playing the Toronto kind of slowed them down a bit, and I mean, I think they were surprised, but I think they didn't believe in the hype of Bosnia. I mean, they knocked out Italy, so I think they made them believers out of that. And then as far as with the U.S., could you're at this high level of play, can you maintain it there, or is it going to be a drop of play against Australia? Even though maybe they beat them, but if they beat them struggling, now does that put some doubt back going into that game against Turkey? I think here these all three games, I guess for all three teams, is making the adjustments. What did we learn from the first game? What can we improve on? And able to see kind of scout the other teams already, what kind of game plan, and that's the advantage going into the second game compared to the first. Because first game, you're just kind of going to get thrown into the fire. So I think like with Aguirre, I think he'll have a game plan against South Korea. He knows what they can do and so forth. Like I said, maybe they do turn it up on much because Aguirre is kind of a coach that doesn't really, he's not a flashy coach. He's your typical La Liga coach is going to go in there and do his thing. Jesse Marsh, like I said, he's I think he'll get him prepared. I mean, it's a good bounce back game against Qatar. Should take care of business, you know, and set themselves up for that, especially that game against Switzerland, which can determine who wins the group. And then the U.S., like I said, is there going to be a letdown in game two? I know you're favored to win. Can you maintain that same intensity you had in the first game? Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that intensity, even though you maybe win like a 2-1 or 3-1, but kind of sloppy, does that put into some doubt going into the Turkey game, depending on what Turkey does today? So, how they look in these next two games.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think from the perspective of all three matches, right? You look at Canada with Qatar. Is Switzerland, because Switzerland I think is they're like my incognito sleeper team, right? I think they could do some stuff here potentially, right? They're much better than people give them credit for. They could put a serious beat down on Qatar, and Qatar comes down knowing they got to go again. They're against it, and with some low confidence against Canada, right? Mexico, I think from that perspective going in, it's all on this South Korea match, right? Because they go in with a +1 goal differential versus South Korea right now, a 2-0 win versus a 2-1 win. So how does that play out, right? And then because what I was thinking at a certain point watching the Mexico match the other day is like, okay, is Aguirre kind of trying to play? Is he kind of playing a little coy here because he doesn't want to show everything with South Korea coming up? But I don't know how you do that in your inaugural match, playing in the Azteca in front of 87,000 fans. Like, you got to demand more from your team in terms of performance, right? So how they handle that, and then the same thing with the U.S., right? How do you make the adjustment, get through, get the job done, and get the 3 points? We talked about it in episode 1, right, Elias? About still has to be results over performance. When you can marry those two together, that's when things like last night happen, right? But even the casuals out there, you've got to realize that it's like you're not going to always score in the first 7 minutes of a game. You're not going to always be up 3-0 at halftime. That's not how it works. Everybody who's around this game knows that, right? But this team is, from the U.S. perspective, yes, they're playing at home. The crowd is going to galvanize them, yes, because for them, I think that's a much bigger impact because they are simply, it's the exception. They're not used to it at home, not to this extent, right? So I think it's going to really galvanize them, right? And if they play like this, and I think they're going to continue to play like this, got to stay healthy, of course, play within yourself, but be composed when the goals don't automatically come, in the first 15, 20 minutes. You just continue to play, right? And I think that was the other part too. And Elias, host nations, right? Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. going forward into match day 2. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what kind of adjustments Mexico plays or makes. I think that they definitely have more talent than kind of what we saw in that first game. So I'd really like to see them kind of come out, take it to Korea a little bit more, maybe make it a little bit more of an open game. It did kind of seem like they were, a little. They defended with 5 and attacked with 5, similar to kind of how the U.S. did, but they had the fullback so low, and so there was some big spaces. Like I was gonna say South Africa had a couple of chances in transition early in that game where you're like, if they hadn't played the worst pass I've ever seen, then they could have maybe hurt Mexico there. So I think just kind of seeing how they evolve. There's probably a lot of nerves in that one. I do think that they're better than what they showed. So and I think maybe a little bit better competition is going to bring a little bit more lively game. So hoping to see them kind of come up a little bit more. I think it's overall it's going to be really it's only going to make the tournament better if the host countries perform better, because you're just going to have more excitement in all of these venues. So, I hope that for all three teams, have good runs through the group stage and continue to keep the kind of atmosphere high in those countries. For Canada, getting Alphonso Davies back, are they going to have him from the get-go in the next game? Is he going to be, on limited minutes? That changes a lot of what they do. Where do they play him? Is he going to be playing as a left back? Is he going to be playing as a winger? I think does a lot of things kind of like Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson do for the U.S., but for Canada. And I would argue that a healthy Alphonso Davies is probably top 3 left backs in the world. Probably if he played winger, he'd be a top 5 winger in the world. So he's a true world class player that, there just really aren't a whole lot of those. So that changes a lot for them. When they brought on Ahmed, on the right wing against Bosnia, and that changed it. So it did seem like they were a little pragmatic in the beginning, and then they brought on some more of those attacking players. So I'll be interested to see if maybe he starts with kind of more of that attack-minded mindset Jesse Marsch does. And then for the U.S., again, how do you adjust? How that people were watching that game last night, that your next opponents were looking at it, that they're going to be ready. How do you counter some of the ways that these other teams are going to counter you? The press was very good from the U.S., with the caveat of they left a lot of space on the backside that good possession teams are going to be able to exploit. So, when that press is broken, how do they react? Is, Freeman, is he going to be able to jump all the way out to those opposite outside backs? And are they going to be able to, kind of rotate their press over without giving up huge amounts of space? So, I think that it's really great that they played well. But like Rafa said, there's a target on your back. Now nobody's gonna wait and see what the U.S. is gonna do. They're gonna expect them to be ready, and they're gonna be ready for them. So, just kind of seeing how they react to that. So, those are kind of my initial thoughts there.
You know what just dawned on me in like literally the last minute? This whole time I've been thinking you're wearing a Denver Broncos shirt. I forgot. I forgot.
My boy.
I forgot. I was like, why is he wearing a Broncos shirt? So, but yeah. Yeah, so here's the interesting question, right? So let's flip it, right? From the U.S. Paraguay perspective from yesterday, how much is left in terms of just spirit, confidence, play, response from Paraguay's perspective to where they can go and maybe kind of rough up and put on a much better performance versus Turkey and potentially help the U.S. men's national team out?
I don't think you're ever going to see a South American team lay down. I just don't think you will. So I would expect.
I also never thought I would see Paraguay the way I saw them yesterday. That's why I asked that.
Yeah, I think they'll regroup. I think that they look shell shocked, but I don't think that they're not going to be. They'll probably be the home country for the next 2 games. They'll probably have a better amount of fans in there. I think
they did have some fans. They did have some fans there. They did.
I think that they're going to try to make a game of that, and they're good enough to. So,
yeah.
I think that's best case scenario for the U.S., right? I mean, is Paraguay go out and put a game on Turkey and get 3 points against them. That's best case scenario for the U.S. because then we go into that last game not needing the points, so to speak. I mean, obviously we still got to play out the Australia game, but I think Paraguay going ahead and putting it on the next 2 opponents for them would be great for the U.S. Going back to the Mexico-South Korea game. Interestingly, watching South Korea, man, they got behind the ball when they needed to. They did commit some numbers forward, but the speed in which they got back to defend was impressive to me, and I think that'll be who handles the transition game better.
Well, aren't their center backs both like 6'4" and 6'5"? Don't they have like monster center backs? South Korea
have monster center backs.
But ironically, they struggled. They seem to have struggled with Czechia's size, though. Right? You got to remember that one goal came on a corner too, right? And so, So I don't know
And the goal that got disallowed was from header too.
right. Yeah.
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 I think that's Czechia's bread and butter, though. They seem to be a very well coached set piece team.
Remember, I don't know if I talked about it on our chat. I said, I was like, man, they're much bigger than I remember them, than I remember from them. I was like, I was surprised, right? Because I think they even put up a stat on that, right? Average players, South Korea, I think what, 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah.
Average player for Czechia was like 6'2", 6'3". So
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty.
6'6" striker that came on for Czechia.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at this really quick here. So, and before we move on, so I kind of wanted to share this. So, we look back at yesterday's match, right? Yesterday's performance, 4-1 victory again for the U.S. So, some of the things we kind of wanted to highlight here. We went over a lot of this stuff, and then Elias, feel free to jump in with your official FIFA tactical match report as well that you have. So any good stuff, because I have not had a chance to see it yet. I know you shared it with us, but it's a lot of good stuff that going forward we're going to have to dive into on here. But you look at it on paper, right, from the stats, because we all know that sometimes the paper can lie, right? But what stood out to you when you were looking at the stats yesterday that you see on here?
The number of passes was, and the way that we were able to control the tempo of the game, control territory. I thought that was great. The clinical, you score 4 goals on 1.4 expected goals. It means that you're finishing, probably three times as clinical as you would expect to. So, I think that it does show overall, that it was the scoreline reflects the way the game went. If you look at the statistics, I think that statistics help you just kind of tell the story of how the game went. But some of the things, if you haven't looked at this FIFA match report, one of the things that you can see are the passing networks, and you can see who passed to who. So some important connections. Obviously, the 3 center backs passing to each other. I think they each completed over 20 passes to each other, with the most being Chris Richards to Tim Ream. I think they played between Chris Richards played Tim Ream 34 times. It played Alex Tillman 21 times. But then if you look at the relationship on the outsides and those kind of wide triangles out there with Weston McKennie and Serginho Dest hooked up 11 times from McKennie to Dest, and it was 9 times from Dest to McKennie. So, and the same thing on the other side with Anthony Robinson and Christian Pulisic and Berhalter. So it kind of shows that they were able to take advantage of those wide triangles. So
Yeah.
some really good stuff.
So what stood out to me, and I don't know if you can find it in there. So what I want to see is not. So we knew the U.S. was going to have the ball more, right? Paraguay was perfectly okay with that. We knew that. So, and even the passes themselves, I mean, that's a high rate even for a U.S. men's national team, right? But that's not the stat I want to see. Is not the 509, not the 85% accuracy passing rating, but where? Because to me, on the surface, how many of where those passes were connected is vital. And I think, and the fact that I didn't anticipate that we were going to consistently see as many high connection rate as we did in Paraguay's defensive third, right? So I guess that's the question: is like, where if they give a full breakdown, but you might have to dig for that. Might not have the time, but where are the percentages of those passes taking place in terms of the thirds on the field? Because for me, I think part of what really what kind of conveyed itself in terms of the U.S.'s dominance was just how much they were able to connect and attack and play through in Paraguay's final defensive third.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I can't
So while
see.
Elias looks, Aaron, your thoughts on here, just going through some of this stuff here.
No, I think passing was expected. Like we said, we expected them to have the possession, but the one shot on goal. I mean, it's great that you're only allowing one shot on goal, right? but we get one shot on goal and one goal for Paraguay. I said, so that's the concerning part for me too.
Correct.
Can we can we not allow our opponents to shoot as well, but also let's not score with the one shot we have? So I think that's pretty big. I would like to see also. I got to dive in because it's what he's looking at is like 52 pages of data.
I know. I know.
I put it into AI and just said give me the highlights of this. But I
Right.
kind of want to see. I would love to see what the retention rate was. So we talk about that a lot. And we have our own system for my high school team that we use that breaks down the games, and that's one of the highlighted things that we look at is like retention rate. What was the retention rate of when we lose the ball, getting it back, the percentage there? How quickly did we win the ball back? Because we always have that 5 second rule. Like if you lose the ball, can you win it back within the first 5 seconds? And there's so much to that that you'll see in that game. But man, passes is insane. If you're looking at that number right there, accurate passes one is big. But
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen high numbers like that for a U.S. team.
No, that's what was.
We're not a team that keeps the ball, like even with a team that concedes the ball to us. I don't think I've ever seen it that high.
Yeah.
Man of the
So
match,
I'm looking at some of these phases of play, and
Yeah.
it says that the U.S. had 22% of their possession in the final third.
Okay.
And they spent a majority of their time in either a high press or mid press. They spent only 4% of the game in a low block. So it seemed that they controlled territory. Territory was very much, you know, in Paraguay's, near their goal. Something I'd found was that the U.S. attempted 170 line breaks, and it looks like they completed 90. What is that? It doesn't have the completion here.
It
100,
doesn't break down the percentage.
130 of their 170 passes that they
Okay.
attempted to break a line with were successful, which comes out to be
76%.
76%. So
Oh,
not only they went forward quite a bit, it looks like one out of every three passes was a forward pass that also broke lines, and they were successful in 75% of that. So that tells a good story of the game right there. Is that how direct they were while still maintaining possession, and then how effective they were at retaining the ball.
yeah. So I think, I guess I was being a little generous there because I would have guesstimated, honestly, just the eyeball test that close to 1/3. I don't know if I had to put a percentage on it, maybe 30-ish%, 30 to 35%. But it felt like 1/3 of those passes I would have said were connected in the final third, right? So I guess I wasn't too far off, a little generous though. But Rafa, your perspective, you look at things on here, maybe from the Paraguay perspective. What do you notice?
It's gotta, just got to be better with the ball. I mean, for them, they just couldn't play anything from the back. Every time they tried to play it back, it was stolen. They're gonna have to figure out how to open up the space to play from the back, maintain possession, and also keep their block. They just could not keep their defensive shape pretty much the whole game, and better, and also the better communication. That has to, that from learning from this game, I think going to the next time against Turkey, that, like I said, can they make those adjustments? And I'm sure they're going to watch them today, so they'll be able to kind of game plan on that. But
Yeah.
there's a possibility there could be another disaster because, like I said, you have a very talented Turkey team. I mean, you got Artur Güler, who's a
Right.
a great playmaker.
They're on a hot streak themselves, man. Turkey is, I think, 8 or 9 game unbeaten streak, right? Yeah.
And so that's gonna, you got to forget this, but still you got to learn from it too. And it just nothing just went right for them. And like I said, I think the only thing that kind of did go for them well is when they did get that goal, that was kind of a positive for them, how they kind of set it up. Those are the things they're gonna have to build upon. But the other thing is, they gotta have better communications in the back. They gotta keep their shape. They gotta be able to absorb that pressure and make those adjustments. But it came down also to coaching. The coaching has to improve. You gotta get on the fly and make those adjustments. If not, you're gonna have who's to say Turkey doesn't put five of them on the next game.
Yeah.
That's gonna be key for them. And I think what hurt them also giving up that last goal. I think had it been a 3-1 game, that would have been a positive because, like I said, it's only a -2 goal differential. Now you dug yourself a hole with a -3. Especially with those 8 spots for the third place spot, they really kind of hurt themselves on that. So they're gonna have, like I said, next game they have to make up some ground. They're gonna have to get some goals, and play the solid defense that they did in Comebol. That's their bread and butter, and they're gonna have to show it to a really talented Turkey team.
It's true that last goal too kind of changed their outlook on how the game went. Again, because at first, yeah, obviously, first half it's terrible, but you come out in the second half and then beat the team 1-0 in the second half. You can now carry that over from a coaching perspective, at least with positivity. But then it's like you give up the goal literally in the last seconds of the game. Now it's back to being negative again.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think, yeah, I mean, you know, excuse me, and I think if you're, we talked about the quote earlier from Alpha. I'm trying to find it. I'll track it down. But one of the things that stood out to me as coaches, right, we can kind of oftentimes read between the lines in terms of what coaches are saying, and I think. Rafa, you mentioned a good point in terms of just being out coached, but I going off of just what I'm reading from the Paraguay perspective and Alfaro's quotes, I just think he did not have a plan. He was not prepared for. I think he was in shock
Yeah.
at the dominance of the midfield by the U.S. Right, and I don't think they had a plan for that. Right, they're like, yes, we'll let them have the ball, we'll bunker in, but and then here's the other thing too is like what reinforced that it wasn't the early own goal. It was because that didn't come till the 7th minute, but from the start, they were on the back foot, right? Because if you remember on the kickoff, right, US did what's the latest fad in the game, right? You kick the ball forward, you kick it into the other opponent's defensive third for a throw, and you give them the ball, you put them on their heels. But Paraguay, what stood out to me the most was they were never that just daunting physical team, right? From the start, right? Even, I mean, immediately, not after the 7-minute mark. They were never that physical team that I was used to, that I anticipated. I mean, they showed more fight and heart from the start and throughout when we played them in that friendly back in, what was it, November? So, and that's what you expect from them. That's what you expect from a CONMEBOL squad and them and their reputation. And they just, that's where I felt like the nerves in terms of the moment got them. I think we'll see them differently against Turkey, but what that will look like is now they really got to chase it. And this is also a team that, yeah, they don't give up a lot of goals, but they also don't score a lot of goals, right? So what will Enciso look like? Will Enciso be in the starting lineup? Is he closer to 100%? Is he more match fit? We shall see. So, but yeah.
I think it was the Washington Post, Hector. I can't pull up the article. It was the Post that interviewed him and talked about how they were just dominated tactically, technically, and physically.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of a clinic on how to attack a back four with that 3-2-5 attacking structure that the U.S. had.
Yeah.
I think that's why you see a lot more back fives nowadays, is because that you can really isolate that outside back, which happened over and over again for Paraguay. And so the wing back would drop low, the midfielder would run beyond. I mean, it was textbook. It looked like 2019 Manchester City with Sane and Sterling,
Excuse me.
De Bruyne and Silva running in the half spaces. I mean, it was very, very well executed. And then, but again, like I said, you're now going to play Australia, Turkey. Their coaches are going to have looked at that. They're going to have solutions for those midfielders running beyond. Who's going to track and then who's going to fill? I think the problem that Paraguay ran into was when those midfielders, those high number 10s or free 8s or whatever you want to call them, when they did attack that space, they were kind of in a catch-22 because if they tracked, then they left space in the middle, and there was nobody to kind of protect the central space. So I would imagine that our next two opponents are going to have, kind of solutions for that, and then what is then the U.S.'s solution to their solution. So I'm interested to see how Poach deals with that as well.
It looked like a training session last night. The way you run it, like we're
Yeah.
gonna set this up in training. We're gonna set this practice up, but let's see what you guys can do. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right, the defense is gonna kind of play 60 to 70% here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Taking nothing away from, yes, the performance by the U.S. men's national team was that good, right? But it was also just, I don't know. This is just a Paraguay squad that I just have never seen like that,
Yeah,
right? So,
unexpected. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So good deal. All right, so that does it for our recap show. So one thing we want to look at here is our our matches, our slate for today, and everybody knows which is the latter half of today's action. Well, kind of latter half, second and fourth game, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, second and fourth game are, but yeah, the big one is 5 p.m. Central Time today. Brazil and Morocco. We'll go in order. We'll go Qatar, Switzerland. What do you predictions, score lines on this? What are you guys thinking? What are you guys feeling? Does Qatar at least make it close for a half? What do we think?
No, this is a rout.
Great analysis.
I think this is 3-0 Switzerland. I'll be honest. Look at what Qatar has done in their last
3-0
5 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 or 4. I think that Switzerland puts it on them, and then it's going to be. Yeah, it's unfortunately going to be a long tournament for Qatar. I think. I just don't think that they have it.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. The outlier there in terms of Canada would be then. What is that? Bosnia and Herzegovina. How they? Because I think they're very familiar, obviously, with Switzerland, right? That's one to keep your eye on down the road, right? Because that could impact Canada.
Canada and Qatar have played a lot in the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, and Qatar's been here a lot, right? In different tournaments as well. So,
Canada's beat them in a tournament too. I think it was 4-1. They beat them, and then they beat them 2-0.
Yeah. So, Rafa, thoughts? Qatar, Switzerland. It's going to be 7-0. Also, you're going with 7-0.
3-4-0. That's what I see.
Yeah.
It'll probably be over by halftime.
Qatar catching almost as many strays as Italy in this tournament.
Yeah.
So then we go to the prime time matchup, the one that everybody wants to see, that will have major ramifications. I mean, this is for the group, basically, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Brazil, a squad that kind of I'm not as big on, but I'm surprised how many people are still big. I think people still follow the name, right, the jersey, and then Morocco, Morocco's the interesting one. I feel that in terms of, do they take the next big step today with the big boys and enter that room, or are they kind of still just at the door, trying to get into that room but not there yet?
I think this is one of those prime moments where Morocco is catching Brazil at the right time. I think with the injuries that they have going forward, with the aging midfield and backline, and and goalkeepers, I think Morocco is just right place, right time to catch this upset. Because of course, everybody sees Brazil, everybody sees the name, and the excitement of that is there. But man, Morocco, I said it before when we were talking, there's one of my dark horses, I think, to make another run as well. It's time. It's time for Morocco to show that they're in the conversation with the big boys. So my prediction for today is 2-1 Morocco.
Yeah, I'm interested to see just kind of how both teams play it. What does a Carlo Ancelotti team look like on the international stage? Does he give them enough structure to be successful? Or I think if it's set up to where it just rises and falls on the talents of their playmakers, I don't think Brazil has enough to get by. I think they have a couple of really good players, but I just don't think top to bottom that they're talented enough. Like those Real Madrid teams he had, where you go out there and you keep it close to the end, and then your superstars go and win you the game. I just don't think that they're made up that way. So I'll be interested to see what they look like. Morocco is a team that doesn't really care to have the ball either. So it's just going to be an interesting matchup style wise too. But I do think that if we're going based on recent form and not history, I think Morocco wins this 1-0. I don't think that there's a lot of goals in this one.
Yeah, me either. So, Rafa?
I think the X factor on this game is going to be Vinny Jr. Is he after kind of a disappointing club season? Is this the now? Does he take the reins and also he's playing for a contract too, so he knows he's gonna have to step it up. And but I think he plays well with Ancelotti. I think another X factor is his son David Ancelotti does a little of the dirty work there too. So he has him on the staff, and he's a big influencer on how they kind of shape the team. I think others have to say, but we'll see Rafinha. He was pretty much hurt all the year with Barca. Is he back? In kind of game shape, because he can take over games too. Have you seen him at times? Um,
Are they saying
and
is he fully
He,
fit?
he,
Because
wa- he was fit at the end of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
he looked very
Yeah,
good for Barcelona at the end of the year.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Because the game shape is the biggest thing. Like since he missed all that time, so he's starting to kind of get back in that groove. Because like I said, I think it's going to come down to those two really to kind of to carry the weight as far as with the attack, and then you mentioned the midfield's kind of a little aging. They could be, but like I said, you also, did Allison, is he consistent there in the goalkeeping too? So I think it'll be a close game. But like I said, you got an experienced manager here. I think Ancelotti has something up his sleeve. This is really a close one. I'm going to give Brazil a 2-1 win on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to ask that about Rafinha because I didn't hear much at the end of the season. I thought he was fit, so I was just assuming he was fit. So, because he did
he
finish
is.
that, right, Elias?
Yeah, he was good. He came back in almost right after the Atletico Madrid loss in the Champions League. So kind of early April, he came back, and by the end of the year, he was 100% fit. So he gives them. Now I'll be interested to see where they play him. He's been kind of
Right.
getting pushed inside into that number 10 role to accommodate Vinny on the left. Kind of the same situation though at Real Madrid where you have two left wingers, and one player is getting kind of pushed out of position and kind of diminishing what makes him special. So, does he play him as the number 10, Rafinha? Does he play them on the right hand side? Is it maybe a front? Is it a 4-4-2 and maybe one of them's like a left striker and one of them's a left winger? But yeah, those two players are their world class talents, and if they can get on the same page, they can create some problems. But what does Brazil look like in the back? Who's going to be holding for them, protecting their back line? So. Yeah, and then Morocco has some really good players. You're going to have to deal with Hakimi, who's going to pop up everywhere. You don't know where he's going to show up as a right back. He may be inverted as a number 6. He may be playing high and wide as a winger. He may be that kind of high number 8 role. So how does he manipulate the defensive shape of Brazil? And how do all those little tactical battles play out? So that's the most intriguing one, I think, just from a talent perspective and from a tactical perspective as well for me.
So in my original predictions, I had them. I don't know if I want to stick with the score line or not. I had them 2-2. I had this ending in a draw. Um, I don't know if we're gonna get that many goals, but we'll see. I'd like for us to see a shootout, but I don't know. Maybe I'll stick with that. But I do have a draw either way. So, all right, we move on to our third match of the day. Slated for 8 p.m. Central Time. Haiti and Scotland. I have a lot of just so many opinions in different directions on this one. So, Aaron, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think if Haiti is going to score a goal at this World Cup, it's going to have to be today. Um, I think I saw one of the prop bets was under 3.5 corners for Haiti. So there's not much. I mean, There's a little bit in it for me watching Haiti because we do have one of our FC Dallas guys plays for Haiti, Dietzen. To get him to see playing at the World Cup, it'd be kind of great. So my prediction for today is a 3-1 scoreline for Scotland. I'm saying that Haiti gets their one goal of the World Cup, and then that's it for them. They can just go home.
So mean, man.
It's harsh truth. You got Morocco and Brazil next. Come on, guys.
Liz?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about this. Well, I do know that I've been seeing people with their bagpipes in Boston on X.
6:30 in the morning.
Taking to the streets everywhere, man. Not just Boston. But yeah.
I saw one guy go down a slide with his bagpipes. I saw somebody else post on X saying that he hopes the bars in the U.S. are better than the planes because they ran out of beer halfway over the Atlantic.
He had to switch to wine.
So it's going to be fun having the Scottish there. Haiti.
They have Boston. They have the Boston PD juggling balls in their square there. Did you see that?
Hey, he was pretty good.
My man got like 20, 25 touches too.
In all the uniform too, with all the gear on. That was impressive.
Yeah.
So I think 3-1, 3-0. I just don't think Haiti has enough. I think the stage too is going to be a little bit too big. I know that there's not a lot of big time Scottish players, but I do think that playing in that environment over in Europe, where there's a lot of passion, I think they're going to be slightly more prepared for what they're going to see today from an emotional and just kind of atmosphere standpoint. So, I have the Scottish by 2 or 3 goals.
Yeah, I mean, really quick, going back to that Brazil-Morocco match. I don't know if you saw our chat. I just saw this from Brian sending us in an article. They were talking about the power, the influence of Ancelotti with Brazil, and he was talking about how Ancelotti has coached many great clubs throughout the world, and Everton.
And Everton.
As a Liverpool fan, that made my day, so I had to mention that. So that's pretty hilarious. But no, in addition to that, I just think if you've seen anything how Brazil fans kind of taking over Times Square, I think this is going to be a de facto home match for Brazil. So how much does that factor in, right? So just something to think about, because I know that was something we didn't really mention earlier. So Scotland, same thing, right? And that's kind of why I mentioned that, segueing it over to Scotland, is definitely some level of home field advantage, I think, for the Scots. Now, can that material? You still got to win. You can't just win the fan show, right? You can't win the beer drinking contest. Like, you got to win the performance on the field too, right? So, you got to perform, right? Got to perform. So, Rafa, thoughts? Haiti, Scotland.
Yeah, Scotland will win 3-0. It's going to be like William Wallace beating the English. That's what.
Wow.
So they're a brave heart.
Yeah.
So
Nobody breaks down
like
international soccer like us. William Wallace references, I like it. I think I was the only one that was generous. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I don't know. I was not sold on the attack of Scotland and Haiti. It's going to make it still scrappy, right? I don't know. I had them down as 1-0. We'll see. Maybe change that, but yeah, definitely had Scotland with the win. And then the nightcap, the late one, the Soccer After Dark edition, right? 11 p.m. Central Time. That is the next day. That is tomorrow on the Eastern Time. Australia and Turkey A, the other half of Group D. This is the one that, it's kind of 1 and 1A between Brazil and Morocco. If you're a U.S. men's national team, you have to pay attention to this one. Thoughts on this one, Aaron?
Yeah, quickly before I get to my prediction for that one, I think what you have to remember too is the rest of CONCACAF that qualified without having to play the U.S., Mexico, or Canada in all of those. And then you get more teams. So you see that Haiti and Curacao, which is probably a little bit surprising that we don't see a Jamaica make it, because it's like you eliminate the big dogs and then
Costa Rica
to qualify. Costa Rica as well. Like,
right.
Yes, they still beat some teams, but this is a much step down version of CONCACAF that you're gonna see at this World Cup. So something to pay attention to see what they do in these games. But
Yeah, that depends. Now, does Scotland get CONCACAF along the way, right? Because we know CONCACAF is some special voodoo, there's some voodoo out there, right? Some voodoo spells out there in the CONCACAF world. Does Scotland somehow get CONCACAF by
Yeah.
eight? You know?
It is. That'll be an interesting thing to see. But
Yeah.
Australia, Turkey, definitely like super interested to watch this match because we want to see what both these teams look like. Turkey coming in on a hot streak. Australia is not a bad team either. Like it was 2-1 with the U.S. the last time we played them, and it was I think they scored first too. It was a very competitive game. So I have this one as a 1-1 draw. That's what I think is going to happen tonight. I could see Turkey coming out and getting the victory, getting all 3 points. But I think for us, best case scenario, 1-1 draw tonight.
1-1 draw. Okay, good. Elias?
Yeah, I'm going back and looking through my predictions real quick. I have I have this as a 0-0 draw here.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
But no, I just I think that Turkey I think is the most talented, but I don't know. I just don't know enough about either of the two teams to be honest. So I'm kind of looking forward to watching, and really, besides that Brazil Morocco game, like I'm kind of just looking forward to watching all three of the other games today, just to kind of see what these teams are about and see the little unique qualities of each team. So I think I picked 0-0 just because I didn't really.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to split it. I think it's going to tell us a lot on how this group is going to go. If it is, what these teams look like. So, what are their personalities? Are they going to be more proactive than maybe Paraguay? Are they going to be sitting in? How offensive is Turkey going to be? Because they do have some big time players. So, but I think this is a draw. In my opinion, so.
Rafa? Rafa, you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear? Okay.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah. Like I said, Turkey's been playing great. Positive result back in November with a 2-2 tie against Spain. So that says a lot. So, and then they have Arda Güler. I think this is going to be a breakout for him here.
Going back to Spain, do you recall, was that A squads for both? Was that prime Turkey and prime?
Yeah, that was a qualifier.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was a qualifier. So that was a qualifier. So they brought both A teams on that, and good result for them. And like I said, I think this team very talented. Is going to be, like I said, a very very tricky, opponent. Going into the knockout stage. They do give up some matchup problems. I expect them to win this one. I think they get a 2-0 win over Australia on this one.
That 2-2 tie. Spain did not start Pedri, did not start Lamine Yamal, did not start Nico Williams, did not start Rodri.
I was going to say they played in September in the same group, and Spain beat them 6-0.
Did they not play on that, Elias, or did they just not start?
They did not play. Spain brought on Samu, Ferran Torres, Alex Baena, Fornals, and Fermin Lopez. But it looks like they're going to be. They played in a 5-4-1 against Spain. So, is it a 5? Is it a 5 back today? Is it a 3 back? Did they go? Do they go to a 4 back? But Turkey also did not have Arda Güler in their lineup either. So, but.
Yeah, I'm assuming that 2-2 was probably in Istanbul versus the 6-0 was probably in Spain. I would assume. Yeah.
No, 2-2 was in Sevilla.
Where was the 6-0 one?
Was
that in Istanbul?
Had to have been. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. No, it was in Konya. Konya.
Okay. Interesting stuff. So, all right. So you had Rafa. You said you had 2-1 Turkey. Is that what you said?
2-0.
2-2 now. Gotcha.
2-0.
I think I have them down. I was checking my notes here. I think I had them. Uh, I don't know. I think Turkey's going to struggle figuring out Australia for a while. That's the question that I have with Turkey. Right. With Turkey, is are they a lot of firepower, a lot of weapons, patience, composure. How do they come out? They're on I think 8 or 9 match unbeaten streak. Um, but I think Australia, in terms of styles making the matchups, they're gonna Turkey is gonna have to have the patience and the composure to figure them out, because I think on initially Australia's I think gonna give them some different looks, but I think that now if Australia gets one early, that changes everything, right? So, and that's what we want, right? But I think I had Turkey winning this 1-0. I saw it as being low scoring, but we'll see. Hoping Australia can really give them a match, right, and show us. Hope both squads show us a lot from the U.S. men's national team perspective as well. So, but yeah, so okay, that is going to do it, guys. So really good stuff today. Really appreciate you. Thank you all for joining us. And this is episode 4 of the Red, White, and Crew podcast. As we're chronicling the U.S. Men's National Team 2026 World Cup, as well as coverage of the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup. After 2 days, guys. So now the games start coming a lot faster, right? We got 4 today. And then I think then after that, there's a couple of days where we have 5 a day, right? So thoughts transitioning through 2 days into, obviously we talked about today, but as we start to see the rest of the field.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the big dogs play. The quote unquote, what do they look like coming up over the next couple of days? So, I think we have well, obviously we get to see Brazil and Morocco today. The Netherlands coming to Arlington tomorrow. I think they're closing down the streets for the big orange bus. But I'm actually going to be in Arlington tomorrow for a big watch party. So maybe I'll have to send some videos to you guys. But and then Argentina on Tuesday, Spain on Monday. France obviously probably, and Portugal getting ready to play as well. So seeing the so-called front runners, I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah. So, Rafa. I think you're muted there. Here, there you go.
Yeah, okay. The one that intrigues me is that Netherlands-Japan game. Like you said,
yeah.
that's probably be the highlight of that one. And then also, well, right after that, Ivory Coast and Ecuador, another banger of a game.
Yeah.
And Germany, we'll see if they'll do what they did to Brazil, put 8 or 9 on Curacao. I would not be surprised if I see a score like that. And then to finish off, like I said, you have Sweden, Tunisia. That'd be an interesting game there. I think that'll be a competitive one, but I think Sweden might pull that one. We'll see if Brett Potter can get the Swedes a win.
Yeah, I think when we talk about just sleepers, dark horses, contenders, what have you, I think no 2 matches are going to tell us more in terms of match day 1 matches than probably Brazil, Morocco, and Netherlands, Japan. Right, I think a lot. Right, a lot. So, be interesting to see how those play out. So, Aaron, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of who's going to win the group games starting off in the first round of games this week, and it's including Brazil, Morocco, Netherlands, Japan, Belgium, and Egypt could be another one of those games that you see. There was one more, England and Croatia. That's going to be another one next Wednesday. Is who takes that group? So it's pretty interesting to see. Pretty excited to see some debutantes too.
Is England going to be able to dress to play? Did you see that story?
I don't think so. No, in that game in
They
Dallas,
stole all their stuff.
they stole everything.
Didn't they
Kansas
already
City.
arrested 2 people, right?
I had heard 2 people
They broke
who,
into their van.
persons of interest were, I guess, being questioned.
They said it was in transit.
That's crazy. That's like some
What, they
Fast and
took the
Furious. That's like some Fast and Furious stuff. They pulled up to the side of it, jumped in the van, threw the guy out and stole it. Like,
So
I
I
can see
guess
that
so. That's the
like Will
question.
Rogers.
That's the question. Did they take all their stuff, like kits, everything, or because I've read different stories? Is it training gear? Like, that's the
Shoes.
question. Yeah, yeah.
It was
So
shoes, training gear.
Boots and training gear is what they took. But on the way to Kansas City, which is crazy because they're playing in Dallas on Wednesday. So it's like, when do they make that transition from Kansas City to Dallas?
wow. So they don't even know where exactly it happened. They just know or was it Kansas City?
Somewhere in between. It said somewhere in between Florida to Kansas City. They were in transit. So in my mind, they probably stopped at a gas station or stopped to eat, and then it got jacked.
Yeah.
Could have been Freddie, man, at Bucky's. They're Freddie, our great fan from Germany. I don't know.
I don't know. He's in
Sounds like an inside job.
That is an insight.
It does sound like it, doesn't it? It does. That's why I'm trying
Because
to
and I don't think that van was even marked as far as like
No.
they would have kind of like the buses. So somebody knew somebody that was driving that or knew that's hey, I'm driving England's equipment and stuff.
I really want to know where exactly it took place. From Florida to Kansas City is way too much of a
yeah, exactly.
shot. I
Exactly.
want to know what city, what stop that took place, because then we'll have a better idea if it was
All right.
an inside job or whatever else. Hey, did you see Freddie LA7 is actually now going to an Ella Langley concert too? I saw
No.
that this morning. Yes, they are going to get to meet her as well after they said they were introduced to her on the road trip.
Yeah.
We're listening on the radio and got to hear her. She sent them tickets to go see her in concert.
Yeah, Freddie, if you're catfishing us and acting like you're a German fan from Europe here in the States, and you're really just another American dude, I'd like, man, we're gonna roast you. I'm just saying. So
For
please,
sure.
please don't let me down.
I was trying to
Yeah,
find where if they posted where the van was, what they stole it, but
It was stolen in Kansas City.
in Kansas City.
So they know that. So
it was
they
in
know that
Kansas
for-
City. So before the team arrived, it was stolen. It
So
was there
the-
at the Swope Soccer Village.
The people that are being questioned were there in Kansas City. Is that where they got? Because I'm trying to connect the dots here.
I think they're looking for another investigator, Hector.
I'll get on the phone with Fabrizio Romano. Him and Shams for the NBA seem to be able to figure everything out. So I'll get on the phone with them. So
They said they have 2 in custody.
I'm not surprised that it's Kansas City. I'm just going to throw that out there.
maybe it's just a hardcore U.S. men's national team. Just taking it on the Brits for being the only Europeans kind of crapping on Americans. So,
About everything.
I don't know, man. It could be just a disgruntled American, maybe. I don't know. Well, excuse me. I hope they get all their gear. I hope it doesn't impact their ability. Because obviously that's a quality of life while you're in a training environment, regardless. So I hope they get that figured out for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is going to do it for episode 4 of the Red, White, and Crew podcast. Really appreciate all of you. Again, like, rate, subscribe. You can find us in the middle of building our YouTube channel for this podcast. But in the meantime, you can find it all at the 50_50 podcast, since the Red, White, and Crew podcast is part of the 50/50 podcast network, as well as on X, on Twitter, Twix as we call it, at 50_50 pod. Go on there, particularly on YouTube. Hit like, rate, subscribe, hit that live bell notification. Well, you'll see, because everything we do is pretty much live. Then, of course, the audio podcast format, wherever your preferred podcast platform is, you can go on there as well and give it a listen. And again, give us a rating. If you think we're great, give us a rating. Go on there, 5 stars, and tell us what you like, what we're doing. If you think we're garbage, just complain nonstop about Aaron. All right, so send all complaints to him. He's relieved, Rafa, of being in charge of our complaint department. Rafa has been promoted, so Rafa doesn't have to worry about our complaint department anymore, or the Red, White, and Crew podcast. So really appreciate you guys. Thank you to all our listeners, all our supporters, as we continue to grow this. Hey, we're only 2 days in, and we got 37 more days of this to go. So it's a blast. Our festival of football has arrived. So, guys, any other? Oh, I do have to mention our next episode. So one of the things that we're going to discuss, we're going to have an offline production meeting. See what our next episode will be. Yes, we will have a preview show for the U.S. men's national team. I'll talk with Rafa if we want to have one for the Mexican national team as well, and then also have a figure out what we're going to do as far as live watch-alongs, and it may not just be limited to the U.S. men's national team in terms of our watch-alongs. We might put it out there for you all to tell us, hey, what game would you like for us to cover in terms of a live watch-along as we continue to build this up. And so looking forward to having some of those. So thoughts on those guys? Anything before we wrap up as far as watch-alongs, games, anything out there?
I'm in for that.
No? Yeah.
Yeah.
Any game you want me to break down, all about it.
Yeah, good deal. So, all right, that is going to do it. So, for Coach Aaron Wesner, Coach Rafa Casorena, and Coach Elias Ramos, I'm your host, Coach Hector Cano. And again, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned as we will be coming to you with episode 5 of the Red, White, and Crew podcast very, very soon. But until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and